I decided to bake my own sourdough bread because it's healthier than store-bought bread, and I wanted to experience the process from scratch. Sourdough is naturally fermented, easier to digest, and has a flavor you can't really get from packaged bread. To begin the starter, I mixed 50 grams of whole rye flour with 50 grams of room temperature water. Rye flour is the best choice for starting because it has more natural enzymes and nutrients that feed the wild yeast. I stirred it well and left it at room temperature for 24 hours. The next day, I checked the jar and already saw some bubbles. It had almost doubled in size, which was a great sign. I measured out 50 grams of the starter, added 50 grams of rye flour and 50 grams of water, mixed it, and left it again. By the second day, the activity was amazing. The jar was full of bubbles and it nearly reached the lid before slowly falling back. That's normal and shows the starter is fermenting well. I repeated the same feeding. On the third day, the growth slowed down, but the bubbles were larger and the smell was turning pleasantly sour. I fed it again, this time using 25 grams rye flour, 25 grams all-purpose flour, and 50 grams water. Switching gradually helps the starter adapt to the flour I want to bake with. The next morning, it had only a few tiny bubbles, so I repeated the same feeding. By the following day, the fermentation was stronger again, and the starter was getting really active. Eventually, the starter was doubling after each feed, full of bubbles with a nice tangy smell. That's when I knew it was ready to bake bread. For my first loaf, I measured 100 grams of starter and mixed it with 350 grams of warm water. Warm water, about 28 to 30 degrees Celsius, helps kickstart fermentation. Then I added 350 grams of all-purpose flour and 150 grams of rye flour. I mixed everything until combined, covered the bowl, and left it for 30 minutes. This resting period is called autolyze, and it helps the flour hydrate. After the rest, I added 10 grams of salt and mixed it in. Salt gives flavor and also strengthens the gluten. I left it for another 30 minutes before starting a series of stretch and folds. With wet hands, I lifted the dough from one side, folded it over, turned the bowl, and repeated. I did this every 30 to 45 minutes during bulk fermentation. On the next fold, I lifted from the center and stretched the dough upward. Each fold helped the dough get stronger and hold more air. After several hours, the dough was smooth and elastic. I shaped it into a round by folding the sides toward the middle, then rolling it gently to build tension on the surface. A tight shape helps the bread rise upward in the oven. I floured a round basket, placed the dough inside, covered it, and let it proof. Proofing is the final rise when the dough develops gas and flavor. When it was ready, I turned the dough out, dusted the top with flour, and scored it down the middle with a blade. Meanwhile, my oven had been preheating at 250 degrees Celsius with the Dutch oven inside. I placed the dough into the hot Dutch oven, covered it, and baked for 20 minutes. The lid traps steam, which helps the bread expand. Then I removed the lid and baked another 25 minutes at 220 degrees Celsius until the crust was golden brown. The bread came out beautifully. A crunchy crust, a strong bottom, and a soft, airy crumb. Pressing the top gave that perfect crackly sound. Next, I wanted to try baking with only all-purpose flour. I made another dough and baked 2 loaves from it. The first loaf I baked the same day. It came out soft inside with a golden crust and a lighter flavor. The second loaf I proofed overnight in the fridge. The cold fermentation made it easier to score, gave it a sharper look, and the taste was more developed. Slightly tangy, deeper and more complex. Out of all the loaves, this overnight one turned out the most beautiful and the best tasting. If you like natural health tips, don't forget to like and subscribe.